Hi, I'm Mike Jingosian. I'd like to talk to you about my book, Mistaken Beliefs. It's about things we think are true that are not, and why everything you think you know about government is wrong. And the situation's only going to get worse till we really understand what's going on in Washington. I guarantee this book will change how you think about government, the disastrous direction we're headed in, and most important, the lost opportunities if we continue to do nothing. It's a book they do not want you to read. Of course, I'd like you to buy it, but most important, you need to read it. So I posted it on my website at no cost. This here is the table of contents, and the chapters that are highlighted are included for free. Everyone who sees this message likes it. It doesn't matter if they're red, blue, or fluorescent. And the good news is 80% of you already want these changes. So I'm not trying to convince you of anything that you don't already want. I'm just providing a plan to get it. So what are mistaken beliefs? Well, they're beliefs that were once true, but now the opposite is true. In fact, in most cases, the complete opposite. Here are some things we talk about. First, we are not going to fix our problems by re-electing the same people from the very same parties that created this mess in the first place. The re-election rate for Congress is 95%. But their approval rating is under 10. There's only one way you can get a 95% re-election rate with a terrible approval rating. You prevent competition. And how do they get away with it? Well, they're the ones who make the laws. Yeah, they're the ones who make the laws that apply to themselves. And whatever happened to conflict of interest or separation of powers? Isn't that the whole point of the Constitution? Doesn't this make you mad? You know, they're always talking about how competition is great for everyone. Then why isn't it good for the two parties too, right? By the way, the sources of the data that I use in this video are at the end of the book. Why the two parties are really the same? I mean, there's only a few issues that separate them. They pretend to fight with the other side when they're both guilty of the same illegal actions and unethical behaviors. If you really think there's a difference between the parties, then take the quiz on our homepage. You know, we need to stop blaming the politicians for our problems. I mean, after all, they're people. And people will always look out for themselves. So who's at fault, really? Politicians who are just being human, or us for giving them unlimited power and money and hoping they don't rig the system to stay in power? There are simple solutions to our worst problems that cost nothing, by the way. But they're not even considered because they don't raise money. I mean, think about it. War, cancer, pollution, the police state, debt, fear, panic. These are all great for raising money and re-elections. But peace, health, living within our means, shopping locally, these are terrible for fundraising. Why the media is not asking the right questions? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 getting to the root of the problem, most news is around a 2 or 3. We believe that we think for ourselves, but really that's not true at all. Our decisions are influenced by powerful, unconscious biological factors like herd mentality, behavioral influences, and unconscious biases. Like why people are more likely to vote Democrat if voting is in a school, or Republican if it's in a church, or there's a picture of a flag on the ballot. Then combine this with a constant barrage of biased information. It's no wonder we're so confused and vote opposite to what we say we want. I mean, think about it. 80% of people want term limits, but we re-elect the same people 95% of the time. 2/3 of us want third parties, yet we cling to this belief that voting for a third party is a wasted vote. When the truth is, voting for a Democrat or Republican is wasted. In fact, it's worse than wasted. It's harmful because you're reinforcing a system that's destroying our country. When someone makes a comment and you reply with yeah, you're giving your personal opinion. But as soon as you say but, now you're telling them the story created by the herd. This is because when we think for ourselves, we think one way. But when we think on behalf of society, we think another. Many people urged me to run for office as a third-party candidate, but the moment I did, the very same people called me crazy for running as a third-party candidate. Here are some of the ways the parties keep us complacent and from fighting for change. The names of all the laws today are designed to do the exact opposite of what the name implies. This is from our Reset America video, by the way. The numbers for unemployment, the debt, GDP are not at all what you think they are. Like, the debt is 10 times more than what they report. In fact, if I use the same accounting practices in my business that Congress uses to determine the debt, I'd be in prison for life. And the unemployment rate has nothing to do with how many people work. It's based entirely on how many people collect insurance benefits. I wrote before the pandemic that if everyone lost their jobs, then when their benefits ran out, the unemployment rate would be at a record low. And that's exactly what we have today. You are not considered unemployed if you're looking for your first job. If you're a freelance worker, which is half a high tech. If you've never paid into payroll tax. If you just graduated high school or college. If you hold a doctorate, but you work part-time as an Uber driver. The formula is so messed up that it's actually possible to have a negative unemployment rate. Not to mention, they keep changing the formulas of these figures to make themselves look better. And why don't they tell you this? Well, they have what they want. A 95% reelection rate. Why change the good thing? Why rock the boat? They tell you what you want to hear, at the same time selling out at an even faster rate. I mean, they lie about what's really going on and blame the other side for our problems to distract us from fighting for change. They spend money that's not theirs. I mean, future generations will not only need to pay this back, but with interest, which keeps rising the more they steal. We're supposed to pay down the debt during good economic times, right? But we just keep giving tax breaks to the mega rich. This creates an income inequality that's unmatched in the world. Here's the relationship between income inequality and the number of these problems in a society. The countries with the highest income inequality have the highest number of problems, and the countries with the lowest have the least number of problems. Where are we? All the way up here. We have the highest income inequality and the greatest number of societal problems. They create huge obstacles to prevent competition. I mean, third-party candidates need to collect up to 10 times more signatures. They're excluded from the polls and surveys, and excluded from the debates and policy briefings, and so on, and so on. Ever wonder why you don't see more third parties? All their money goes towards collecting signatures and suing the government for illegal election violations. I know it sounds crazy, but there's been over 100 lawsuits in just the past 10 years. That's why you never see any money for things like recruiting or campaigning or fundraising. It will blow your mind when you learn what the two parties do to prevent competition. Incumbents, on the other hand, have huge advantages over outsiders. Here are pages of re-election advantages from our book. They get billions from their parties. They get paid to campaign. They have entire teams whose jobs depend on getting them reelected, including speechwriters and bloggers and volunteer coordinators and fundraisers. They get free advertising and speaking gigs and interviews. They get invited to graduations and conventions and parades. All paid for by you. Reset America is a practical strategy to save our nation. It involves only voting for candidates who pledge their support to 3 changes in our election laws. First, term limits to get rid of career politicians and start electing people who want to put our interest before theirs. We need ranked voting so we can vote for who we want and not risk electing someone we hate even more. And equal campaign laws to give outsiders the same chance to get elected, because the rules are vastly different for third parties and outsiders. If a candidate meets all the requirements to run for office, then they should be given the same opportunities as the two parties. Now, these changes aren't going to solve all our problems overnight, but they're a necessary first step. And like I said, you already want these changes. 80% of us want term limits. 80% that use ranked voting like it. And 68% want third parties. And yeah, 93% of us dislike government. You know, We're not as polarized as the establishment wants you to think. That's why nothing here is about any particular issue. It's bigger than that. We need to put aside the attacks that the two parties use to polarize us, so we point fingers at each other instead of where they should be pointed. Don't think of this as red versus blue. Think of it as us versus them. And don't waste your time spending one more minute surfing the internet or watching your favorite news show. And don't dare complain about politics until you learn the truth about what's going on. Blue pill, red pill. Blue pill, red pill. Hey, you can live in your fantasy world about what you think is happening. And if these false opinions make you feel better, then go for it. But if you really want to know what's going on, then read this book. Reset America is a realistic plan to save our future. It's simple, doesn't cost a thing, it doesn't need help from Congress, and can be achieved in just 2 to 3 elections. And there's so much more I want to tell you about this book. Why we must enforce our antitrust laws, outrageous conflicts of interest, how lobbying works, why even the easiest no-brainer legislation can't get passed, and how I was attacked as a third-party candidate. All this material is on our website, where you can watch a video of me explaining the plan and why this is so critically important. Please watch it. Plus you get to see my wild side. And forward these videos to everyone you know. This is what we've been begging for. Don't let this opportunity pass by. We can save our way of life, but I need your help to do it. Please like, subscribe, leave comments, download the book now, and watch the other video. Our death will be caused by us not thinking for ourselves and blindly accepting what society tells us to believe. I look forward to hearing from you.